How do you know when prepping has transitioned to hoarding? Let's talk about this. Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene, and today we have a really interesting question for you. It was sent in by Carl Labram. Thank you, Carl. And he asks, how do you know when your prepping has transitioned to hoarding? And that's a really good question. It's kind of like the same question, when is enough enough?
And sometimes that's a hard question to answer. It's something that's very individual. You'll have to figure this out for yourself. But we'll give you a little guidance here.
So the first thing that we did is we reached out to a few of our really good prepping friends and just asked them for their opinion. And the first one we reached out to was Nick Miller. And if you remember Nick, we've done several videos with him, but he has a degree in emergency management and he's a first responder. So he has seen a lot of stuff in his life. And when we first talked to him about this, the first thing that came to his mind was what he calls trail houses. And in these homes, they'll go in and there is literally a path or a trail from the TV to the bedroom, to the bathroom, and sometimes the kitchen. But it's just cluttered with all kinds of stuff that makes it into kind of an unsafe environment.
Right, and a lot of times it's extremely unsanitary. Not a place that we want to live.
So to quote Nick, he says, first of all, he wants to make the point that it's not quantity per se. Nick's wife calls him an organized hoarder. He says the amount of stuff you have doesn't matter as long as it is stored properly, does not cause a fire or health hazard, and you can still use the rooms in your home for their intended purpose. I think that's kind of a really good point because if your stuff's organized, you know where it is, and you're not tripping over it, you can still lead the good life.
Yeah, you can live a happy, productive life and have those things that are organized and ready when you need them.
Because prepping should not ever dominate your life.
Absolutely. I mean, there's this whole pie of life and the whole thing. I know people who the whole thing is prepping, and it shouldn't be. There's so many good things that we can do in our lives that prepping should be a lifestyle that brings us happiness now and peace of mind, but there's so many more things that we can and should be doing.
Yeah. We also reached out to another couple who, they don't want to be named. They just want to be anonymous, which is actually very good prepper quality. And Jonathan and I are going to go through their points. They said, that's a great question. And we think there are multiple possibilities that could cause prepping to move into the realm of hoarding. The first one is when supplies aren't organized so that you know what you have and where it is located. Oh my goodness, this one's so important.
Yeah. Another bullet point is when you have a lot of gear, but you've never practiced to see if it will do what you need it to do. I mean, and this happens. People buy stuff and stick it away, but they never pull it out and figure out how to use it and even find out if it's going to do the job. And so that's kind of maybe some false hope sometimes.
And so in that respect, John and I guess we're kind of hoarders because we have so many different ways to cook our food in an emergency. But we have a YouTube channel and we have to create videos on this. Yeah. So we want to make sure that you don't think because we have all this stuff that you need to have all this stuff, unless of course you have a YouTube channel and you're trying to help your fellow man be better prepared for the challenges ahead. All right, the third thing, they said, when you have a lot of food, but you don't use it and rotate it.
And that just goes contrary to our whole philosophy.
When you have acquired gear because some influencer prepper said you needed it in order to survive. And I really hope that influencer prepper is not us, because while we'll show you really great things that could be very helpful both in your regular life and in future preparedness, it serves a purpose for your future preparedness. You don't need everything everybody tells you. And if you can't fit it into your life, remember we need the basics. We need food, water, fuel, shelter. there are very basic things we need to survive. And yes, some of those are tools. You don't need everything.
Right, and an important aspect of that is the financial piece. You need to look and see, okay, is this something that is really important to us, and does it fit in our budget? We never want people to go into debt to buy stuff. Next bullet point, when you have gear that does not help you solve an anticipated problem. Again, this is a homework thing that you have to look at before you just go out and buy crap. And sometimes it is crap, and we have done that in our earlier years especially. You know, we'd go buy a bunch of stuff and then we pull it out later and find out it's just total garbage. It was somebody's attempt to get rich based on you've got to have this, you've got to do this to be safe.
A good example of that were some of the wind-up emergency radios that we had gotten originally.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, this is going to be good. And then we take it out to use it and experiment with it. They break. You can't really get reception on them. I mean, so you've got to really be careful about that. All right, the next one is when your gear is organized, but there is no room in your house for the essentials for everyday living. So those are in piles around your home.
That's a problem.
That's a problem, okay. And we're telling you that's a problem, but sometimes that's me. So right.
And me. I mean, this is a battle. It's an ongoing battle, and again, one of our goals for this year was to win that battle, right?
Yeah.
Not that it was ever that bad, but sometimes there's just stuff that, okay, it's got to have a home, and maybe there's some stuff that just needs to disappear so that the important stuff can have a home.
And one of the things that we did this year, and we've talked about this, is we built a he shed and a she shed.
Yeah.
Because we have a small house, and so there's not a room for a lot of stuff. And this way, I have my she shed where I can store all the things that I think are important, and he doesn't get to say anything about what's in that she shed.
Exactly right.
Right? But it's not taking up space in our house. And the he shed, I'm not even sure what's in there, and I will probably never set foot in the he shed. It's probably a very terrifying place to be.
She probably is, and it's not really that bad, but we finished hers first, so right now we're in the process of finishing mine, and so then it will become very productive space. When you buy some shiny new prepper thing without first researching it thoroughly.
Shiny new prepper things. Okay, there's some really cool, fun things out there.
Yeah.
And we get really excited about some of them.
And some of those are emotional decisions that really sound cool in the moment, and then, you know, back to the old thing, then you get it out and it's like, oh, this is just a piece of crap and we're not going to use this. So, you know, be careful of shiny new things.
And use wisdom in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Use wisdom.
Yeah.
There are some things you need to have. It'll make life so much easier if you have to live without electricity. We've got a lot of examples of those that they're just going to make life so much easier. But you don't need everything. Okay, I like this one. When you buy gear or food out of fear. So we should never be purchasing out of fear, right? Fear is not a good place for us to be.
Because it drives emotional things that often are traps. Okay. When you stockpile gear because the more you have, the better it makes you feel.
Okay, there's some truth in that.
There is. Sometimes we think because we got piles and piles of stuff, but maybe, again, we just have to be more selective. Okay, when you keep items after they are way past their best by date, not just food, but fuel, medicine, etc. And again, that's a problem. If you've got all this food on the shelf, but it's way past date, it's not safe to eat, it's not healthy to eat, and it tastes nasty, that's false security. We need to make sure that we're rotating.
And that we're willing to get rid of stuff when it's no longer usable. When you have to throw away food that has spoiled while in storage because it went rancid, it's leaking cans, there's infestations, yeah, maybe that's a point when you know that you're not rotating through it and some of it goes bad. And some of that actually just happens when you're storing food. But, okay, point well taken.
Yeah. When you don't store your food or gear correctly, for example, using Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, buckets, totes, shelving, when we're not doing it right, usually we end up having it go to waste. The mice infest, the weevil, whatever it is. Again, it's false security because you think you've got something that you don't really have, and when you go to get it, it doesn't help you.
Okay, this next one, when you're afraid to use your gear or food to practice with, because then you'll have less of that. Okay, we just addressed that not very long ago, right? When do you use it? You know, like, when is it okay? And I think if we could develop the mindset more of being prepared is being able to live your life every day, right? And what we have, even though it has a 30-year shelf life, we're not putting it away for 30 years. We're storing whatever we need for a certain period of time. It might be 3 months for you, it might be 6 months, a year, or 2 years, whatever time you're comfortable with. But then we need to be willing to open those cans, open that Mylar, and use it up. Make sure that we're not wasting.
And on the aspect of gear, we've talked about this, but you need to practice. You need to pull out whatever gear what's a cooking stuff, whatever it is, and practice and use it so that you know how to use it, so that it's not a surprise to you when you pull it out and you can't figure out how to use it when you really need to. When you take a purchase of gear home and then eventually discover that you already had that item, that's...
Or you have to purchase it again because you don't know where it is.
Because you can't find it anywhere, and so...
No, I had that. Where did I put that? When you keep gear that is broken and can't be repaired or worn out because you might need it someday. This is a discussion that we frequently have.
When you acquire supplies as a reaction to something or someone rather than being proactive in what you choose to acquire. Again, it comes back to the fear thing. Oh, this is happening, we better go do this. Well, let's take a more proactive approach to life, and let's make sure that we're getting what's important, because again, then we're making emotional decisions.
It is really important that we're proactive with things. One of our big goals for this year, as well as the organization thing, is to increase the security in our home. The reason why, it's not living out of fear, it's because we see a potential threat. We see that we've got to make our home into an amazing shelter, into a refuge. We have to protect it from outside influences and elements. And the only way for us to do that is to take some reasonable steps. So I think right now, I don't think we're reacting out of fear. I think we're saying there's a real threat. We can do something real to minimize the risk for our family, and we're going to take those steps and do that. I do think we just have to be careful that we are focusing on living our best life every day while we're taking thought for the future.
I think, and that's kind of the definition of Provident, right? In the whole Provident Prepper thing is enjoying today, preparing for tomorrow joyfully.
Joyfully. And working together as a team to accomplish it all. And we hear this so often because you know what? Husbands and wives, and we don't always see eye to eye.
Right.
But we can be united in our cause, right? We can be united in our goals and then work with each other to try and be able to accomplish them. And before anybody feels really bad about this video, remember that I think we all see ourselves on the hoarding side a little bit. What some of the things that we've talked about.
It comes with the territory.
It comes with
I mean,
the
it
territory.
really does. And we just have to be careful to make sure that what we're doing makes sense, that it's financially responsible, and that it keeps our lives free and joyful.
And it's okay to make preparations to be able to bless the lives of your family, your friends, and your neighbors. So just use wisdom in everything you do. And now for the question of the day. What areas do you see yourself transitioning a bit between prepping and maybe hoarding? And what are your thoughts on it? Comment below.
And thanks for being part of the solution.